Hey guys, it's Cole here with Barrier Outdoors, and today we're going to be talking all about my favorite early season strategy for catching trout in our local waters here in Pennsylvania. We're going to be talking about European nymphing. And so as we go through this video, I'll give you some tips and tactics and how to understand this style of fishing and this style of nymphing. So today the style of fly fishing that I'm using is called European nymphing, which means I'm going to be running a extremely thin diameter monofilament as my main casting line. And what that does is it allows my super heavy fly, which what I have on here today is a squirmy wormy. It's a worm pattern, and it allows my heavy fly to get to the bottom of those runs much faster than a regular fly. Along with that thin diameter line helps it sink faster. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for these creases in the water where the fast water meets the slow water, and I want my fly to follow right along the line that those two water types form. What I'm doing is letting that heavy nymph sink all the way to the bottom to the point where I can feel it bouncing off the rocks. And this allows that nymph to get down faster and get into that fish's strike zone much sooner than a traditional style nymphing would. As you can see here, I'm using my rod to go straight out from my body, and that's just gonna hover over where my nymph is floating through that crease or that change in the water. One of the biggest things about European nymphing is to set your hook on every little thing. Sometimes a trout will eat a fly without you even knowing it. So if you feel a thump, whether it's a rock, a log, or a fish, you're gonna wanna try and set that hook because hook sets are free and you don't want to miss that set, whether it be a fish or a rock. Another key thing to remember about this style of fly fishing, this Euro-Nymphing style, is to keep that line nice and tight. If you let that line slack a little bit, you're not gonna have the same sensitivity that you would as if you kept that line tight. And so in order to help with that sensitivity today, I'm using a 10-foot 2-weight, it's made by Max Catch style Euro-Nymphing rod, and it's got an extremely sensitive tip to it, so it allows you to pick up those super light bites. Today we are actually fishing for stock trout. Here in Pennsylvania, it's hard to find wild trout in a lot of places. It's mainly brook trouts. There are some places you can find brown trout that are wild, but a lot more of the streams local to where we are hold stock trout. So this worm pattern is extremely effective for stocked trout in streams like this. Another tip for this style of Euro-Nymphing, as you can see, my right hand holds the rod while my left hand controls the depth. And so as you fish a hole, it helps you to begin to more accurately target the fish in the hole by changing depths. So if I want to go shallower in the water column, I'll move my left hand further from the rod. If I want to go deeper in the water column, I will move my left hand closer to the rod. And that also is beneficial with that heavy nymph, or what I have today, this worm pattern, helps you to be able to move that faster into the targeted water column. Did you see that fish jump right there in front of you? So we just saw a fish jump right in front of the camera. That means that some of the bugs that are floating in here today, most likely early caddis or early mayfly, with this warmer temperature here this afternoon, we start seeing, we might be able to see an early hatch as some of these nymphs emerge into their full fly stage of their life cycle. So seeing that and seeing that fish jump tells me that there are some nymphs and some fish higher in the water column. So I'm going to, like I said before, move my left hand further from my right hand and try and get that nymph a little higher in the water column than I would have been fishing before.
Go ahead.
All right guys, so as I was saying before, this style that I'm using today is called European nymphing style. And so what we're looking at here is my fly box for today. We've got some squirmy wormies, and we got some pheasant tail with the regular style hook on it. And we've got some jig style pheasant tails, along with some brighter colors and some mop flies here at the bottom. The biggest thing though is that these all have tungsten bead heads on them, and they have lead wire wrapped around the shank of the hook, which allows that fly to be much heavier and allows it to sink faster, and really helps with that tight line style nymphing. Alright, so I want to talk about why I chose this style of nymphing for today. I could have gone with the traditional style nymphing where I would have had a nymph below a strike indicator, made long casts, but it's March 30th today, so the water temperatures are still super cold. So allowing that nymph to get straight into the strike zone of a trout, along with being able to be very specific about the nymph and the depth of water that I'm fishing it, makes it extremely effective for this early season trout fishing that we're doing today. Another thing that you may have noticed if you're watching this video is that with this style of nymphing, you don't make a traditional artsy long distance fly cast. You do what's called a lob cast. So when you lob cast, you'll start with your line straight downstream, just like this. You'll remove your fly from the water and fling it back upstream, and that's all there is to it. So it's an extremely simple cast compared to your traditional fly casting, and it allows you to fish small streams like this without putting your line into the trees behind you on your back cast, along with making it extremely easy for beginners to pick up this style of casting. Also, this section of water here I'm fishing, I've put a split shot about 6 inches above my fly. So in faster water like this, even a nymph with a tungsten bead head is going to have a hard time sinking in faster water like this. So what I can do is I can put that split shot about 6 inches above the fly, and it gives me a much more straight down presentation, along with getting that fly to sink to the depth that I need it to in a much faster manner. Once again, guys, if you saw that, hook sets are free, just in case anybody was wondering. Any little bump that you feel in your line, you're going to want to set that hook, because when you're fishing this pattern, this style, rocks, logs, sticks, anything at the bottom of that water column is going to catch on your fly, most likely. You're going to lose a lot of flies, so just remember that. Set the hook on those thumps, and every once in a while it'll turn up to be a fish. Another quick little tip is to take a piece of backing. I like to pick like a neon color backing that you would put behind your fly line, and tie a barrel knot in that backing around your monofilament fly fishing line. So what that allows you to do is put an indicator in your line, not like in a traditional style of nymphing, but in a visual for you to determine your depth of water. So essentially what I do is, above my tippet ring, I'll tie a barrel knot in a piece of backing, and I'll be able to slide it up and down as I change holes. So it gives me a visual reference as my fly is coming past me about how deep I am fishing, and if I need to raise my fly or lower it in order to get into the strike zone of that trout. All right, there you have it, guys. Euro-Nymphing 101. We've talked about some tips, some tactics. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe and like this channel, and hit that bell so you can be notified when we have more fishing content just like this.